And welcome back to everybody to Hoopsville as we continue to roll along live. Thanks for bearing with a couple of technical gremlins tonight, but certainly a better show. And heck, the voice is holding up, so we'll take that for the win. If you got questions for us, information at the bottom of your screen. We'll wrap up the last segment of the show with a quick look at the top 25 and some news and notes on that and some other things. And if you have any questions, we'll try and answer those as well. Couple quick scoring updates in men's basketball. Oswego defeated St. Lawrence 66-58. Oswego was actually down by 2 at halftime, 26-24, but outscored St. Lawrence by 10 in the second half to win and go 4-0 now. St. Lawrence picks up their first loss. Scranton women absolutely housed Stevens. It was an 89-54 finish. Scranton was leading after the first quarter, after the opening 10 minutes, 30-16. And while that was the highest scoring quarter for either team, Scranton didn't score less than 15 the rest of the game, and Stevens didn't score more than that 16 in the first quarter in any of the quarters and go on to win 89-54 to the Royals, who are now 4-0. Stevens suffers their first loss. They're now 5-1. Up in New England, back into the Little East, which we don't do all that often, but Keene State men's basketball is certainly one we've been keeping an eye on all summer, because not only did they take a loss in the NCAA tournament to Swarthmore on a team that probably really wasn't 100%, but we certainly knew they were frustrated by it. But as a result, interestingly enough, their head coach, Ryan Keene, was persuaded to go to Johns Hopkins down here in Baltimore and take over a program there. That left David Hastings in control of the Owls. He's got an interesting backstory, and this team is certainly ready to try and tackle and win it all if they can, or at least go a little bit further with David Hastings, at least on an interim level, in charge. We talked to him earlier today. Now joining us on the Hoopsville hotline, it's the head coach of the Keene State Owls on the interim basis for now. It's David Hastings. Coach, first and foremost, thanks for taking the time to join us. I don't know if a year ago in this seat you would have expected to be the head coach of the Keene State Owls, but it's been an interesting year. We'll talk a lot about it, but first and foremost, welcome to the program and congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate you inviting me on the program, and yeah, I'm a very blessed individual to be sitting in this chair.
Nothing against Ryan Keene. I love the man, and I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of them down here in the Mid-Atlantic region. But Ryan had a huge personality that I think when people thought of Keene State, they thought of Ryan. They don't think much about the coaching staff. There's some other programs. I got to know the assistants pretty darn well as well. I didn't get to know you as well. We didn't get to understand who you and the rest of the staff were. Give us a sense of kind of where your background is, what got you involved with Keene State, et cetera, and has allowed you to step into this interim role.
Well, first of all, I love Ryan Keene as well. We talk 2-3 times a week. I consider him a true friend in the basketball community. So I think it's outstanding that he had the opportunity to go where he is, and I have the opportunity to be where I am. He was very out there. He was very flamboyant. He was energetic. He was just really out in the forefront of everything. As a staff itself, I thought we all did a great job of doing what we needed to do to get the team to the level that we wanted them to perform at. So there was really no need for anybody else to do, trying to think of the right word here. We didn't need to express ourselves in a way that Ryan was doing it. And our program kind of spoke for itself in that sense.
Fair point. And usually different programs, the way they work, that works. You don't have to know everybody. So, listen, I know when everything came to a crashing halt, unfortunately, last season, once again at the hands of Swarthmore, the team wasn't 100%. We knew that, or at least we figured that out at the end of the moment, but certainly had a feeling going in. And I wasn't there, but Ryan Scott talks about, this team was like, we're coming back, man. This is not how this ends for us. We're coming back. We're going to do this again. We're going to knock them off, or whoever it was. We have unfinished business. And at no time in that moment do I ever suspect that Ryan Keene thought he'd be moving on to another job, or players thought that there would be a change, yourselves or all. I mean, it didn't feel like that was at all on anyone's radar. Heck, I don't think any of us thought Josh Leffler was leaving for Cincinnati, which opened the door at Hopkins, which opened the door for Ryan Keene. That all said, interesting offseason. How does a departure of Coach Keene give pause at any point in the offseason, or does it help everyone double down?
Well, I think every point you just made there was fantastic and absolutely true. No one expected any of this to happen, but on the upside, the guys that were coming back were all people that I had a heavy hand in recruiting each one of them. We already had that developed relationship. We already had an established program with a foundation. Ryan and I are different people. We have some different ways that we coach or some different things that we may do on the court. But in general, we knew that we had what it took to get to that point. And, you know, to meet teams like Swarthmore, when you win, lose, or draw in a game like that, it was still a phenomenal game. And they were a great team. You know, it took a great team to beat a great team. And there's no excuses about our injuries or illnesses or anything else. They deserved it, and we needed to be better than we were last year. And we're hoping this year we can take it another step or two further.
Obviously, the familiarity makes it easy for someone like yourself to take over from the interim status. The players know you. You know the system. You might be a different coach. You might have different styles, but everything is understood. But admittedly, even myself as a top 25 voter, and I did this with Johns Hopkins as well, I went, it's still a coaching change. It's still a change. It is a different personality. It is a different mentality. Maybe you aren't going to run the same stuff Ryan ran. It's not going to be the same Keene State squad that we're used to. So I kind of knocked everyone down a few pegs to see how that would develop. Is that fair? Is it to look at a scenario like yours to say, yeah, this is still not going to be the same Keene State, but we're going to be ourselves and judge us by that?
I did notice you knocked us down a peg or two. You know, I had a number of people that I listened to the different podcasts, and there was always a question about the coaching change that was taking place. They can be good and bad. There's no doubt about it. I would like to think that the relationship I have with the players and the style of coaching that I do are going to maintain a certain level. I think so far we've done pretty well with it. The Stockton game was a hiccup, I'm hoping. We came back strong the very next game with Platteville, and we performed well since then. We'll see how it continues to play out throughout the year. But again, pretty hard to say you want to change much for a 28-2 team. I mean, Ryan had us going here. And again, when I say Ryan, I still think it was a collective attitude of everybody within the team, the players, the coaches, all together. We all supported each other and relied on each other. And certainly Ryan was the guiding force on top of that.
My last comment about Ryan is I don't think he knew what the Hopkins schedule was to start the season when he took over the job. I do wonder if he called you guys and said, I've my mistake, I'm coming back. And that's just tongue in cheek. It is, the Hopkins schedule is insane. And they're dealing with their own stuff. But from your perspective, you obviously already knew what this schedule was going to bring. You knew what you guys had accomplished, what you want to accomplish. So what was the goal to the team as you broke camp, as it were, to use an NFL reference, and headed into the season knowing that, A, you're going out to San Diego for a kind of an unknown event. It's existed, but being out in South Dakota is a new thing. I think I said San Diego there for a second. South Dakota. Yeah, the cold's kicking.
We would have rather been in San Diego, maybe.
Yeah, no, I was going to say.
The weather was a little different.
Aberdeen, South Dakota, San Diego, it's slightly different. But what was the mentality? What was the goal? Was it, hey, let's go and knock all the socks off, or play each game at a time, and if we lose, we lose. So be it. We'll figure this out.
Yeah, let me say the tournament out in South Dakota is phenomenally. Small basketball championship classic is outstanding. The way it's run is very good. The facility was number one. We loved it. It was a great opportunity. And as far as the schedules go, Ryan's insane no matter what, because currently we're going to play 4 games in 7 days. And he put that whole schedule together too.
That's true.
With that said, I mean, I take one game at a time. You know, people ask all the time about what the schedule looks like and who we're playing at certain points in the season. And I'm a little bit older. I'm not a young coach here. I've been around the block, as a couple of the experts have noted a few times about me being around the block. And I take it in jest. I appreciate that. So the fact is, we take one game at a time. The opportunity to go out and play Stockton and Platteville was fantastic. two really good teams. We got a great experience out there, and we come back and we play really good teams when we come back here. So the idea of playing the best available competition is what we want to do. The idea that our players have been to a certain level and they want to go further along, our goals are there, but I really don't try to get our players to not get too high, not get too low, and definitely don't look far ahead. The most important game is the next one coming.
We talk about the team. Let's talk about the team. Tell us, give us the breakdown. How much did you lose really in the offseason, or how much really came back, and how is this team kind of gelling with anything that's come in new?
Yeah, so we lost one player that actually played 23 minutes a game last year, Jarrett Shishan. He was more of a Swiss Army knife. He did everything well, nothing great. Huge loss to the team as far as what he brought. He was the third leading scorer. He was the third leading rebounder. Most physical kid that we had. And then we graduated three other guys that didn't really play much. So we returned quite a bit. But again, expectations are expectations. You still have to go out and play the game. We're one of only two teams, I think, in Division III that have returning All-Americans. Obviously, Jeff Hunter, everyone knows across the country, 26 double-doubles last year out of our 30 games.
Yeah, a couple,
He's a
2,
unique
3.
person. Yeah. And Octavio Brito is just a tremendous athlete that scored his 1,000-point already in our first game this year as a junior. He's got a huge upside. We returned the point guard and the off guard, Nate Sayao and Mason Jean-Baptiste. Mason may be the most solid, consistent player, game in and game out, that we have on all aspects of the game of basketball. So we just had to find a fifth starter, which we've gone with a couple different guys this year so far. One that was with us last year, transferred in mid-season, Tameen Dupree, and Alonzo Linton was another one who was with the team last year, but he wasn't actually on the roster. He is rostered this year, and he's been playing really well, along with Spencer Aronson, who may be our best shooter on the team. So we've got a good thing going right now. A lot of people are being involved. I should mention we had a player out injured in the beginning of the year, a point guard, Mike Crothers, who in the last two games he's had 19 assists and 2 turnovers. So when you get a guy like that back, they're playing hard. They're playing well. They're playing for each other.
We should mention Hunter and Brito both scoring nearly 19 points a game. Jean-Baptiste, 12.5. And guys like Dupree knocking on the door double figures as well. Listen, this program and this team has very much had the moniker of the underdog / haven't gotten over the hump, flash in the pan. I'm using some terms I've heard thrown around. Listen, expectations have never been high. Okay, great. You're having a great, wonderful start to the season, but we'll see you in March. Has that changed internally? Are you still driving off of that? Are you still feeding off the we're underrated kind of motif that everyone has for the Owls over the last few years, whether that's true this year or not?
I think that really doesn't come up until it gets nationally. I think within our conference. So I've been here. This is my 8th year. Out of my first 7 years, I think we were in the conference championship 6 times out of those. So I think within our conference, we kind of looked at like we're on top. And I think every team wants to bring their best game when they get to play Keene State. I'm not sure the most liked group around, so that helps as well. But that's within the conference. Once we get outside, yeah, I would say we're the underdog card. We're a state school that comes out, and I consider us a bunch of blue-collar lunchbox type players. That's what I try to insist upon the players to understand, that when we go out, we gotta work hard. We're not going to be the most talented ever. We're not going to be the most skilled ever. We're going to go out and we're going to give it 100% each and every time we step on the court. And when we get done, I want everybody to know Keene State was there.
Makes total sense. And speaking of which, you got Albertus Magnus, a very similar squad in terms of respect us, know we're here. Especially a handful of years ago, St. Joseph's kind of knocked them off a little bit, and they want that respect back. So you got them coming up in a non-conference game coming up on Tuesday. And then you get a couple of home games in conference play. It's an interesting kind of time of year where you're mixing and matching a little bit of the non-conference and the conference. We'll talk about what happens later in December, but is this an important stretch ahead for you?
Yeah, I think it's pretty important between here and the Christmas break. Playing Albertus Magnus tomorrow night is going to be fantastic. They're an undefeated team right now. playing very well. I watched them play Emerson the other night. They're going to be tough. I mean, that's the kind of game that we want. We want to have a good, tough physical game and see how we match up. Hopefully we come out on the side that we want to come out on, but that'll really remain in the players' hands. Do they execute properly, and do we play aggressively enough to contain what Albertus Magnus brings to the table?
And then you'll play Tufts to wrap things up pre-Christmas on the 9th. Then you'll get basically almost a month off before you get back into conference play with a Middlebury non-conference game sprinkled in late in January. How important is this break? You know, no matter how things happen in the next 5, after December 9th, before January 3rd, how important is that time going to be for this team to kind of keep the momentum, keep the mentality when there's a lot of other things to be distracted by, including in New England, maybe snow and some pretty lights?
Yeah, well, I'm a firm believer in family. So the idea that we're going to get through that last game with Tufts, have a couple practices, they'll take their midterms and go home and spend some time with their family, I think is what every young person should do and needs. So then we'll bring them back after Christmas. We'll get back into it. And yeah, our conference games will begin. Obviously, Middlebury is always a very tough game for us, and they're playing pretty well this year. We have to give our best effort there as well.
Hey, a little bit about yourself, in case anyone knows. We have interim on the graphic. They've got acting on the website. It isn't the official job yet. We'll talk about that in a minute. But give me a little bit of your background. I got a kick out of the fact that, A, you're from Western Massachusetts, an area I certainly know well from my prep school days. But at the same time, you're a retired police chief. This basketball thing isn't necessarily number one. It's maybe 1B for a long time. Now that the A is removed, it's become the soul. Tell us a little bit about that background.
Well, I guess you would have to say 1B, although many of my law enforcement community members used to call me coach rather than chief. My email always said coach rather than chief. I was very fortunate to be in law enforcement for a long period of time, 34 years I started out at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, which is a city in itself. And then I had the opportunity to go back to my hometown, which most people aren't aware of it, other than Mount Herman is in my town. So anybody in the basketball world would know that. And I was the chief there for 24 years. So yeah, 34 years in total in law enforcement, but I've been coaching basketball since my oldest son, who turns 40 Wednesday, he turns 40. I was coaching him since he was in 3rd grade. I've always been involved in athletics and coaching. I've coached at numerous high schools and really all the sports. I just really enjoyed it.
I said 1B because it's basketball. I figured, I could be a little bit illiterate, but I get what your point is. I mean, that's what I hear from a lot of individuals. Obviously, you're assistant to Ryan Keene, and now you're the acting/interim head coach of this program. Is this a program? Is this what you want to do? Is this where you want to be? Do you want that title made more permanent?
Absolutely. Yeah, I had told Ryan for years I just needed him to call in sick once so I could say that I got to coach a college basketball team. It's been a dream of mine for quite some time. Like I said, I've been here for 7 years with Ryan. 2 years as an assistant, then 5 years as the associate head coach. I thought maybe during COVID I was going to have my shot. He got COVID. Found out like 2 hours later I had it too. So that screwed that up. No, it's been a lifelong dream. When I say I'm blessed to be able to do this, I am very blessed. I don't do it for anything other than the love of the basketball game. I'm retired. There's a lot of things I don't need that they try to offer. I'm good. I'm doing what I want right here, spending time with these young men, helping to create what's going to be out there in the community, as well as what's on the basketball court.
That's pretty cool. And I can totally see the urge to have Ryan just sit a game so you can get one to yourself. Now you got the whole program to yourself. Obviously, as a state school, not surprising to have the acting/interim title put on for a year before they make an official decision. Certainly not going to prognosticate on what their decisions may be, but do you get the sense this is your program?
Yes, I feel very confident with what's going on. Ryan started the same way when he came here. I don't know if Rob did before Ryan. I don't go that far back. But yeah, I feel very good. I have a great relationship with the players, great relationship with the staff here at Keene State. I love our president. I love our athletic director. And I think things are going well. So the idea of, being a state school and being here and dedicating what I can dedicate to this place, I'm good with.
Well, very great experience to chat with you. I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Congratulations to the team on, listen, just the accomplishment in itself, to get to where this program has gone, when I know the goal for a long time was to be here. You just had to get here, and some teams break down in that struggle. So it's great to see that you guys are here, and you're still got the mission in front of you, and I'm expecting to still be talking about the Owls quite a bit later in this year. So thanks for joining us. Congratulations on the job. As always, we give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share, those who may be tuned in?
All I would say is that everybody should be blessed to be healthy and safe. I appreciate you having us on this program. Go Owls.
Well put, Coach. Thank you again. Take care of yourself. Have a great holiday season. Have a great basketball season. We'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Thank you.
Dave Hastings joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate Coach joining us. Great to chat with the former chief of police up there in New England. And we'll fascinated to see how they turn out, right? In the latest top 25, they are now the 7th ranked Owls of Keene State. 4-1 overall. They've got Albertus Magnus ahead on Tuesday. Then home against Southern Maine and Westfield State. And then on the road against Plymouth State. Those are 3 games in essentially 5 days, the 2nd, the 4th, and the 6th. And then they'll wrap up the pre-Christmas, the 2023 side of things with a game against Tufts on the 9th. And then they'll take the break until getting back into conference play on the 1st of January against 3rd of January against Castleton. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show, wrap up our thoughts on the top 25, give you a heads up on what we're doing the rest in the next few weeks as well. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. Back with more after this.